Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. Thanks for joining us on this quick lesson on great guitar moves in the key of G. This is part of a larger series that we are doing of great guitar moves in the top guitar keys, which are C, G, D, A, and E. Make sure and take a moment to download the PDF that goes along with this lesson. It has all of the examples and everything that we're going to be going through. All right, take a look at that first page of the PDF. When we're in the key of G, we're going to be going between G and Gsus quite a bit. If you need to extend a G for a long period of time, a great move to do that is this. You take a G, and we're just going to add my first finger down on the second string. Maybe I can even add my second finger to it. Kind of making a bottom half of a C chord. Hammer-on gets a little bit more of a professional sound. Take a look at the next one. If I need to extend out a G for a long period of time, that's one way to do it. On the next one, I've got some different ways. If I'm doing a G, one thing that sounds particularly good is when I hammer on my second finger, or even other fingers as well. We're going to start off with the second finger. This is a little bit of a low voice thing, but sounds really good in the key of G. So if I take the bottom half of a G chord, and I'm going to hammer on this second finger. Maybe I can even hammer on the pinky there, make it a little bit of a Gsus. Now that's voiced a little bit low, but in some situations, maybe you're playing a ballad, something country, it's going to sound great. Take a look at the next page. If I need to stay on a G for a long period of time, I can do my sus, but I can also maybe substitute a G for a G2, which is adding the second step of the scale with it. So I've got a G. Now I'm playing things fingerstyle, but you could be using your pick as well. If I add my move my second finger down here to the third string, I get a G2 there. Sounds great. If I don't want to play the full chord, I want to just play maybe the bottom four strings of the chord. You can just play the second string there. Take a look at the last one. You've got a G5 there. It takes that third out. These work great on when you're doing something that requires a little bit more aggressiveness, a little bit more power. And I could add my first finger now to cover that A, that second note A. All right, so we've done a lot of different voicings on the one chord, the G in the key of G. What can we do on the two chord? Well, on the A minor, that would be the two chord in the key of G. Here are some different options you can use for the A minor. I can take my third finger off, make it an A minor seventh. I can take my pinky and move it over here to the first string at the third fret and put that high G at the top. Or I can even get up here to the fifth fret on the fourth and third string with my second and third finger and create a really cool A minor ninth that sounds great in certain situations. Not all of these are going to work with every situation, but you do have a lot of options here. And remember, hammering on, you're going to get a little bit more of a professional sound. Wonderful options for the two chord in the key of G. We've done the one, we've done the two, let's go up to the four chord. In the key of G, you're going to be playing a lot of G's and C's. So what can we do with a C chord? There's your typical C chord that everybody else is going to be playing. Well, one of the cool things I can do is I'm going to just switch my third finger, put it on the sixth string, put my pinky where my third finger was, and I end up with a C with a G in the bass. Hear how rich and wonderful that sounds on guitar? When I have that, put that G in the bass. Here's a C. Here's a C with a G in the bass. Another option I can do, I can take the third out and just make it C, G, C, and G. So I have a C. I'm muting out that fourth string, just letting my third finger set on that fourth string. And I have an open G, first finger C, pinky G. I can even do a C2. Maybe put my second finger on the fifth string, third finger on the second string, or you can even play it like this if you want to. Another way, I can add that high G to it too. That one works great in particularly aggressive situations, especially remember the G5 that we did here? Those are a great combination there. All right, what else can we do? Well, on that C chord, we can also do a hammer-on like we did on the G chord. Maybe you can even hammer on when I have the C and the G and the bass. So take a look at that example at the bottom of page 2. Great combination there between the G, the C with a G, and back to the G. I'm just muting out that 5th string with my 3rd finger. You can even hammer on, pull off. All right, take a look at the next page. We've done things on the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 4 chord. What about the 5 chord? All right, here's a D chord. Everybody else is going to be playing a normal D. You can always add a D suspended if you need to extend out that D. Another cool thing that you can do, I can take that D suspended and I can move it up here to the 3rd fret. It's like a C shape, but I'm going to move it exactly up 2 frets. And I get this beautiful D suspended. So if I started on the C, all right, take a look at the next one. We've got an E minor. That would be the 6th minor in the key of G. Well, what can we do with that? Well, everybody could be doing that, but another cool move that you can do is take that bottom half of a C chord and scoot it up 2 frets, just where we were actually with the D suspended, but we're not going to play our 3rd finger. And we're going to add our low E to it. And I get a beautiful E minor 9th. You can even slide up to it. There you go. What else we could do? Well, I could come up here to this E minor up here, and then take my 3rd and 2nd finger off, and I have this. Maybe I can even go all the way down to the 1st string. Just back to the full bar there. All right, take a look at the next page. What is this, page 4? Another great thing that you can do in the key of G is use what's called common tone voicings. I can voice a lot of these chords that are used in the key of G, and I can voice them with a similar note as the top note. We're going to use a high G. Most of them are going to also have the D in it as well. So I'm going to change the G into a G5. Muting out that 5th string with my 2nd finger. Now if I voice my A minor and still keep that high G as the upper note, I can cover anything that uses an A minor. What if we did a G with a B in the bass? I put my 1st finger on the 5th string at the 2nd fret, and I'm also kind of muting out by overshooting my 1st finger, overshooting it a little bit right there. That kind of mutes out that 6th string if I accidentally hit that, and that's a G with a B in the bass. Then if I move my 2nd finger over, I have a C2. If I do a D suspended, what if I did an E minor 9th, which is exactly the same shape as the G with a B in the bass, just I'm adding the E this time. So I've covered all of the 4 or 5 main chords in the key of G, and they're all going to sound great when I go back and forth between them all because of this common tone that we have at the top. Take a look at the next progressions underneath that. So if I had started a typical progression you're going to see in the key of G is a 1, 6 minor, 4, and a 5. If I wanted to do these common tone progressions, it would be something like this. Sounds great. What if I needed to go from a G with a B in the bass to a C2? Take a look at that next progression. how they all sound like they go together so well? That's because of that high note on top. What if I did that third progression there? I have maybe an E minor 7th, C2, walk down, they just go together so well, and it's one of the great things that you can do on guitar in the key of G. Take a look at the next thing. This is an interesting one. We're going to use a track with this one. This requires a moving note in it, and I just thought I would include this. You can do this in other keys too, but it sounds particularly good in the key of G. So here's the move first. I'm going to bar completely with my first finger at the 7th fret, the bottom 3 strings. And I'm going to put my pinky over here with this high D. So I've got a D, and then I'm going to put my second finger on the G. So it's kind of a G5. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hammer on this second note from the bar. And I'm going to end up with a pattern like that. Now, I know it's a lot of notes there and it looks a lot more complicated than it is. Let me give you a hint. It really doesn't matter where you do the little hammer-on thing. You're just kind of making a little drone part in here. And this little drone part works great over really anything in the key of G. So we've got a little track we're going to turn on here, and I'll show you how this works. It's just a great little drony part that if you don't know what to play in the key of G, let's say you're playing with a band or something like that where the chords are already covered by another instrument, you can add this little drony part. It really doesn't matter what finger combination that you're using. I can do it with a pick if I've got one here with me. I can do it with a pick just as well. So it takes a second to get the pattern of it, but once you do, it's a very useful trick in the key of G. Let's go to the next one. What's another thing we can do in the key of G that sounds great? Well, is you can do inversions. We've talked about this in other keys, and you can do it in G as well. So let's say we're going between the 1 and the 4 chord, the G and the C. Well, if I'd use an inversion of the key of G, which is where I put a different note as the bass note, I can end up with a G, then a G with a B in the bass, C. See how that really helped lift to that C? When you see a G/B, everything you see underneath the slash is just the bass note. It's not two different chords. The top one is the chord, the bottom one is the bass note. Take a look at the next one. If I'm going from a D to a G, this would be the 5 to the 1, I can throw the inversion of the D with the F sharp, going to that G, and that sounds fantastic. So instead of just staying on a D for 4 beats, I can create a little bit of movement by switching around some different inversions. So it's good to know the inversions on all of the major chords in any key, which would be the 1, the 4, the 5. So in the key of G, it would be a G, a C, and a D. So here they are listed all out there in that third line: G, G with a B, have the third in the bass there, which leads great to the C, C with an E in the bass. Notice this one, I've got an open E there I'm adding to this C chord. I've got a D, D with the F sharp. Hear how just those inversions, just by adding a different inversion, you can get a much more interesting guitar part sounding. All right, another option that you can do, you're going to see a progression a lot of the time that's going to be a 2-5-1. So I thought I would give you a little combination in 2-5-1 in G, which would be an A minor to a D to a G. So I wrote this out and included the tab there for you if you're interested. I've got an A minor 7th. Do a little hammer-on there. I'm going to the Dsus, to the D, and then to the G. We already talked about that C with a G in the bass, and if I slide that up, just the inner 3 notes, then back to the G. So here's how this one sounds. I'll do it again, and all right, lastly, what else can we do? We can do walk-ups. Walk-ups between different chords, maybe from the G to the C, and you're going to be walking up and down from that. So take a look at the first one on the next page. This is page 6. I'm going to do a G, A minor, G with a B in the bass to the C. That's a great little move in the key of G. Then walk back down. Do it again. I can do it strumming. If I went, you can also do a walk up from the D, the 5, back to the 1. D. I'm going to have a C with an E in the bass, D with an F sharp in the bass to the G. These little walk-ups are really helpful when you're working with a singer. It helps them know kind of that another chord is coming. All right, that's all that's on the printed materials. Let me give you one more just for fun. Just for fun. If you've stuck around this far, you've deserved it. Here's another great thing that you can do in the key of G. The inner 3 strings, the 4th, the 3rd, and the 2nd, are a D, a G, and a B, which conveniently make a G triad. So I can also do a harmonic up here at the 12th fret on just those 3 strings, and I get a G triad. So if I'm ending a song, a little fun thing you can do just to take it up a notch. If I do the same thing on the 7th fret, I get a D triad, and then if I do it on the 5th fret, I get another G triad even higher. So I could do something. There I did it. 3rd finger catching the triad there, 3rd finger catching the triad of the 7th, and then I'd hit the low G with my 1st finger and did the harmonics with my pinky. You got to be really careful with that. And there you get them all. These are fun little moves, chord moves that you can do in the key of G to really kick up your playing. Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. Thanks for joining us on this lesson, and we'll see you next time.